Who rules these lands? Is it the flying wyvern, with its breath of fire and wings of wind? Is it the beast, cunning eyes behind a shield of hide and fur? Or is it perhaps mankind, creator of machinery and myth? It is none of them. The true master of our world is time. Time which corrodes the mountains and dries the oceans. Time which distorts wyvern and men. Time which rules supreme over life, death, and everything in between. And so, to understand our world, one must understand times long gone, the history of these lands. That is precisely what this film will aim to do, to present a complete and detailed timeline of all relevant events that the scribes of the Hunters Guild and the Royal Academy have been able to piece together through tireless research. It is our sincere hope that in unraveling the past, we will come to know how to build a better future. In the effort of compiling a detailed history of our lands, the act of measuring time was the first hurdle our scribes faced. Across the world, there are many calendars and time notations, so choosing one was always going to be arbitrary. The Royal Academy ultimately proposed to use a dating system that defines Year Zero as the year of the Great Dragon Calamity, the day Shrade burned. We shall elaborate on that later. For now, we established the dating methods of BDC, before Dragon Calamity, and ADC, after Dragon Calamity. We do not know how old the skies and the seas are, though estimates in the hundreds of millions of years are broadly accepted. Here, in a time before time, the land is thought to have been a ragged battleground. Tectonic movements shifted the earth violently, while the seas roiled to claim their rightful dominion. As life was taking its first steps, the world that welcomed them was harsh and unformed. At the base of all of this sat then, as it does now, a network of dragon veins. Called by many different names by as many different cultures over the eons, these underground corridors are known to deliver energy across the lands, dispersing it into every corner of the world. How exactly the dragon veins function is to this day hotly debated, but it is undeniable that the energy they carry is the cornerstone of all nature as we know it. Just as it is today, however, the flow of the dragon veins is not equal or stable. Some places are doused in life-giving energy, while others remain barren and neglected. In this world of extremes, ancient monsters took their first steps, battling for supremacy over the prehistoric plains of our world. Many of the species that walked those ancient lands, such as the Wyvern Rex or the Igleibis, still have descendants today. The dragon vein's influence goes far beyond merely nourishing the lands and its monsters, though. In certain spots, the energy it carries behaves unusually, either accumulating beyond normal limits or escaping into the overworld like a crack in a gas pipe. The latter phenomenon often causes bizarre landscapes to emerge. One of the oldest examples of this is believed to have formed in this primordial past, wherein a crack in the dragon veins caused energy to be pushed into a rocky land, flowing upwards into the sky and, in the process, forcing the very bedrock skywards alongside it. This odd dynamic eventually formed an extremely tall, cylindrical mountain imbued with an abnormal amount of dragon vein energy. This is the place the guild now calls the Ruined Pinnacle. But perhaps the most extreme example of how the dragon veins shaped the ancient era of our world can be found in the region that we now call the New World. Here too lies an odd section of the dragon veins, a place where energy flows more intensely than in other parts of the world. This specific section of the dragon veins would later come to be known as the Everstream. And it was around this place where a very special elder dragon was born. Shara Ishvalda, the Earth Song Dragon, whose spindly body belies its great strength and ability to burrow through the deepest layers of our world. It is unknown if it was born of the dragon veins itself, or if it simply happened to first appear near the Everstream. Shara Ishvalda was, however, not the only ancient dragon that appeared in that region during this time. An emperor serpent, an even larger ancestor of the already gigantic Dalamadur, also emerged near the Everstream, and, for reasons that will forever be lost to history, drew its final breath there, its massive body slumping lifelessly across the New World. Like all elder dragons, it is likely that this serpent too released an enormous amount of life-giving bioenergy upon death, which in turn attracted the subterraneous Shara Ishvalda to the location where the serpent had died. As it moved through the earth, its manipulation of the ground caused strong crustal deformations and shifts, which in turn shaped the New World into the form we know today, with a massive circular ravine in its center. The place the Shara Ishvalda burrowed into. The New World would continue to be altered by forces beyond our understanding. At some point in this distant era, a natural event of unknown character resulted in an enormous explosion in the seas around the New World. This was an extinction event for much of the marine life in the area, as it completely wiped out entire species of corals and aquatic microbes. Or at least, it partially did. The explosion was so violent that it catapulted vast clouds of coral eggs and bacterial matter into the center of the New World. While much of this material was either killed in the blast or was dead on impact, enough of these organisms survived to begin adapting to their new situation. Coral eggs that landed in the upper layers of the ravine began acclimating to life on land, becoming the land corals that would eventually form the coral highlands. The aquatic microbes, meanwhile, found themselves stranded in a sort of putrid paradise, as they were thrown into the corpse of the giant emperor serpent. In such a nutrient-rich environment, the bacteria rapidly adapted and specialized in decomposing organic matter, eventually becoming airborne. They are the ancestors of what we would later call effluvium, and it was their decompositional work that began creating the rotten veil. And it was in this moment, where a highland of life was born alongside a valley of death, that one of the most magnificent ecological events of our world began. Compelled by a rationale that is forever denied to us, more emperor serpents began to travel to the new world, seemingly with the bespoke purpose of dying exactly where their brother had fallen. And it was not just them. From this point onwards, elder dragons from across the world would feel that pull to participate in a final pilgrimage to the rotten veil of the new world, where they would perish and allow their bioenergy to revitalize the ecosystem of the continent, their essence melting back into the Everstream and the dragon veins they once came from. This was the birth of the Elder Crossing, which would continue to occur once every century. This wondrous event is what has shaped the new world since time immemorial, as each aging dragon reshapes the land as they move into the Veil. We even know of cases in which a dragon failed to arrive in time, yet still contributed to the great orchestra of life. Sometime in this primordial era, a Zora Magdaros, an elder dragon carrying a volcano on its back, attempted to cross into the new world but expired just before reaching the Veil. Instead, its death created a small, localized anomaly in which the land surrounding its corpse began experiencing contradictory climate zones, all coexisting in close proximity. This anomalous region, centralized around the decaying body of the dragon, is the place that you may now know as the Guiding Lands. And so, dragons continued to arrive and die in the Rotten Veil for eons, their final moments being the breath of the New World's ecosystem. And through it all, the Shara Ishvalda remained at the bottom of the Veil, perhaps resting or biding its time. Whatever its reasons may have been, some time after the beginning of the Elder Crossing, the Earth Dragon began to move again. Shara Ishvalda dug deeper than ever before and, through the opening presented by the Everstream, was able to penetrate into the dragon veins themselves. Unobstructed by any foes or lands, Shara Ishvalda thus began its long journey through the veins, and as it moved, the tendrils of its wing arms began producing an eerie echo against the walls of the dragon veins, a song that would reverberate sporadically across all known realms. And so, through the movements of dragons, the earth was formed and reformed time and again. This period of land deformations is believed to have lasted for an unspeakably long time. So long, in fact, that within that era, the giant emperor serpents evolved into their smaller but still enormous descendants, the Dalamadur. And it was one such descendant serpent that, as it moved through the Eastern Sea, coiled its body around a stretch of land so violently that it shaped it into a small, crescent-shaped island. Where the serpent coiled most vigorously, the land was squeezed and deformed into a mountainous landscape, with unusual thin peaks and sheer cliffs. As a result of the Dalamadur's movement, the island known as Shiki was born, adorned with odd mountains such as the Heaven's Mount. It was at the foot of these mountains, on the crescent island of Shiki, that the Wyverians first emerged. Of all the sapient races, Wyverians are thought to be the oldest, both due to their long lifespans and their vast ancestral lore that far surpasses anything that humanity can muster. And all Wyverians, old and young, big and small, consider the country of Shiki their homeland. While it is believed that the Wyverians emerged in the ancient past before any other races, it is much harder to pin down an origin point for us humans. The earliest record we have of human activities dates back a few millennia before the Dragon Calamity, in a mountainous region to the east. Here, a combination of ecological factors such as natural clean spring water, mild climates, and high concentrations of vital metals had long since created a natural paradise. In turn, many monster species thrived here, with some, like the Bishaten, being entirely unique to this mountain region. But as monster populations increased, their hustle and bustle woke something that had been slumbering in the valley for untold ages. A Narwa, a powerful female thunder dragon that usually rests until she is ready to reproduce. Her rage at being awoken was as a storm, tearing through the valley and terrorizing the local fauna until both it and all large monsters in the area wandered off, leaving the valley an empty garden. And then, humans settled in. It is believed that at this time, humans generally considered all monsters to be gods, and these early tribal communities had thus avoided this valley despite its bounties. But now, as the gentle streams lay undisturbed by the footsteps of giants, the human tribes found themselves an idyllic home, a land of beauty that they had seemingly inherited from the gods that had vanished. In honor of the deities' gifts, these early humans built many shrines and temples to them, and began building a thriving and bountiful civilization in what would later come to be known as the Shrine Valley of Kamura. While the humans had just begun thriving in isolated places like the Shrine Valley, Wyverians were already facing their first catastrophe. Near Heaven's Mount, their ancestral village of Cathar woke one day to a stampede of rampaging monsters, their eyes bloodshot with madness, their breath a sickly dark mist. This plague of frenzy seemed to emanate from a golden dragon at the center of Heaven's Mount, a being that would later come to be known as Shagaru Magala. After the incident, the citizens of Cathar identified the site the dragon had emerged from and sealed it off, naming it the Sanctuary and forbidding access to it. Humans and Wyverians continued to spread across the known world, and many of their ancient ruins dot our lands to this day. One noteworthy human civilization of this era was the Jungle Tribe, which lived in the rainforests of Terosu at the eastern edge of the main continent. They carved paths and caves into the jungle's foundation and seemed to live in prosperity. This may have in part been due to their relationship to a truly special being, a Kushala Daora, which lived alongside them to some degree and was worshipped by the natives as a god. For some time, this civilization prospered alongside its guardian dragon and its steel wings. Until one day, for reasons we will likely never uncover, the people revolted against the Kushala Daora and fought it bitterly, resulting in the dragon being chased away from the jungle. While the jungle tribe would die off soon after, this event is particularly relevant as it is the earliest record we have of people fighting back against monsters, seeing them not as untouchable gods, but rather animals and pests that must be dealt with. It was an attitude that would continue to grow over the coming centuries. But humanity's greatest achievement was yet to come. In the northwestern region of the main continent, through trials and tribulations unrecorded in history, the first great human nation arose, a powerful state that would soon swallow much of the world. The Schrade Kingdom. Despite its size and dominance, very little remains of their history, both because of their tragic demise and due to their unique language and writing system, which continues to puzzle modern anthropologists. What is, however, known is that this kingdom ruled over vast stretches of the main continent, with some contemporary accounts even claiming it as ruling the world. This dominance was upheld through its Order of Ancient Heroes, a band of warriors wielding unusual weaponry that allowed them to battle even the fiercest monsters. This kingdom also created various siege weaponry, such as powerful dragon lances that could fortify castles and fortresses. This era was likely when humanity was at its most politically powerful. But Schrade was not the only powerful kingdom to arise in this era. In the Far East, in a place aptly called the Eastlands, a city-state called Wyveria began to amass influence and power. Despite the name, this was primarily a human civilization, which worshipped certain Wyverians as a matter of national religion. But what truly set Wyveria apart was its technology. Machines that called lightning from the sky, trees that summoned the rain, ice-cold magnets that allowed for levitating structures. The people of Wyveria wielded a kind of science that even today seems indistinguishable from genuine magic. At the center of this all was their crowning glory, the Dragon Torch. This semi-organic creation allowed Wyveria to transform the ephemeral, unusable life energy that flows through the Eastland's dragon veins into a fuel source that could be used by man-made machines, a substance they called Wilk. Using an artificial network similar to dragon veins, called wormways, the people of Wyveria distributed Wilk all across their territory, using it to perform feats of marvelous ingenuity. Before long, the people of Wyveria even tampered with that most sacred of all natural laws, life itself. Using the power of Wilk, they created artificial imitations of monsters and called them guardians, using them for a variety of purposes. But it was not all idyllic and seamless. The Wyverians that had been worshipped by the people of Wyveria were eventually discarded, chased away for reasons that remain unknown. The abandoned Wyverians thus found a new home in the nearby mountain peaks and established a village called Suja. Meanwhile, in the center of the main continent, another powerful city was about to be born. A tribal society on the northern shore of the Geocrux Sea molded the mountains of their home, carving into them buildings, bridges, and walls. They built a city, and they called it Dundorma. Using ancient blacksmithing techniques and knowledge gained from analyzing old weaponry from the west, the Dundormans created many defensive fortifications to ward off the many monsters that roamed this region. Chief among these creations was the first ever Dragonator, an improved iteration of Schrade's Dragonlance that could injure even elder dragons. With these powerful defenses, Dundorma flourished and even interacted with many different nascent civilizations at the time, trading Dragonators to them. In general, The millennia before the Great Calamity were a time where many odd and downright inexplicable powers and technologies emerged. One of history's greatest mysteries is the tale of the Dragon Riders, which are believed to have existed around this time. Virtually nothing is known about them besides the unbelievable claim that they were capable of controlling wyverns and dragons, riding them into battle and using them at their leisure. How this was possible, and whether it was the result of a genuine bond between rider and monster, or if it was based on some kind of subjugation, is entirely lost to history. As are the Dragon Riders themselves, for that matter. They simply vanish from the historical record not long after their first recorded mention, leaving only questions behind. There are many more cases like this in the near pre-calamity period. Groups and tribes said to have unimaginable powers that simply disappear without a trace. Another example of this would be the ancient Mogans, which lived on and around the deserted island around this time. They were said to have tamed the sea, and technology retrieved from this era implies that the ancient Mogans were even able to breathe underwater using bizarre masks. They were also not an isolated people, as they too received a Dragonator from Dundorma in what was likely a trade agreement. And yet, just like the Dragon Riders, the ancient Mogans too simply vanished from history, as their cities crumbled and sank into the sea. All that remained of them was a handful of descendants, who built a town historically called Old Moga atop the ruins of their forefathers, vowing to guard them and their legacy. The rise and fall of various civilizations was, however, not the only defining feature of this era. Another consistent element of accounts from this time is the increasing presence of elder dragons. Whatever the reason for this may have been, has been lost. But in this period, events involving the emergence of these powerful monsters seemingly became more frequent. For example, one harrowing account tells of a warship equipped with Dundorman Dragonators chasing down a Zoramagdaros at sea. The reason for this battle is a mystery, but the warriors on that ship sought to slay the dragon and finally confronted it in a frozen archipelago. Surrounded by the Moon, Star, and Twin Islands, colloquially called the Frost Islands, the brave men fought the dragon and, with a decisive strike of their Dragonator, ended their long pursuit. But in its final moments, the dragon doomed them all. Its powerful limbs had torn the ship in twain, leaving the crew stranded in this frigid region far away from the mainland. And even in death, the dragon's ire did not spare them. As it expired, the Zoramagdaros released an enormous amount of nourishing bioenergy, useless to humans in its raw form, but deeply attractive to all kinds of monsters. Before long, the islands of the archipelago were overrun by ferocious wyverns and beasts, and the crew of the warship soon succumbed to the cold, the monsters, and the madness. Meanwhile, in the north of the main continent, another decisive battle was brewing. A Wyverian expeditioner had been chasing an Oceaniz, an enormous flying wyvern that has sometimes been mistaken as an elder dragon, into the snowy mountains and was able to confront it. Why this battle took place and how it ended, nobody knows. Both the expeditioner and the Oceaniz are said to have simply disappeared. One remnant of this battle, however, has remained. The giant sword of the expeditioner, which he dropped into an icy cave. The blade was made up of constantly regenerating black dragon scales, and would lay waiting in the frozen cave for centuries once it had lost its master. The string of dragon emergences continued worldwide. In a stretch of ocean later called the Tainted Sea, a black sea dragon called Dire Miralis suddenly appeared, sinking entire islands during its rampage. The people of the surrounding lands banded together and, against all odds, defeated the dragon in a brutal conflict, repelling it back into the depths from whence it came. In honor of this victory, the people erected the Dragon's Bane lighthouse near where the battle had been fought, and before long, a port town named Tanzia sprung up around it. But examples like these, where a dragon's appearance is quelled by the people's force of will, were rare in this era. Much more common were stories such as that of the Sandy Plains, where a modest settlement once stood. It is said that one day during this period, a crimson comet flew by the town. The comet crashed into the land and released a powerful blast of energy that transformed the land rapidly, causing violent shifts in terrain and climate. In a panic, the settlement was abandoned, and the lingering energy of this impact would eventually turn this region into the arid wasteland it is known as today. Modern researchers believe that this comet of disaster was actually a Valstrax, a kind of elder dragon that flies in the upper atmosphere of our world using draconic propulsion. They are said to only appear in intervals of centuries and millennia, and their arrivals are always accompanied with great upheavals. But the Sandy Plains impact pales in comparison to the tragedy that befell the humans of the Shrine Valley, who had begun this era by moving into a natural paradise. Over many generations, the people of this land came to take its bounties for granted, and ignorance and pollution alike poisoned the valley's gifts. So it was perhaps cosmic justice that at the peak of the Shrine people's hubris, another dragon descended into the valley, an Ibushi, the male counterpart of the female Narwa that had once chased the monsters away from this land. Perhaps it was attracted to the region by the female's lingering energy from her appearance centuries past, or perhaps it was a coincidence. Either way, the result of this was disastrous. Ibushi are masters of storms and winds, able to wield powerful gales as they search for a mate. The winds of an Ibushi have the additional property of agitating monsters into a frenzied stampede, where hordes of wyverns and beasts run amok as they attempt to escape the dragon's fury. The Ibushi landing near the Shrine Valley thus caused the monsters that had retreated into the surrounding lands to run wild, piling into the human settlement as a violent typhoon of claw and fang. This was the first recorded case of the phenomenon now known as the Rampage, and its effects were horrific. As monsters entered the land, the humans had to either flee or die. None of them had the skill or strength to fight back. And so, the Shrine Valley was destroyed, its citizens displaced, and its land once again conquered by monsters. While this did lead to the land recovering from generations of pollution and regaining its beauty, the humans looked upon it as a tragedy, renaming the valley into the Shrine Ruins. And yet, even the destructiveness of this incident would not come close to the setback humanity would suffer not long after. No one remembers why it happened. Today, many theories still coil and wind around this moment in time, what this film has designated as Year Zero. In particular, scholars, historians, and conspiracy theorists all ponder what might have been the inciting incident for what followed. Some documents describe a great conflict in which the ancient heroes of Shrade battled innumerable dragons, while various expeditioners reference a tale in which an adventurer had found some ancient abomination created by the people of this time, a remnant of the sin that invited disaster. It must be stressed, however, that none of these claims have ever been decisively confirmed by unbiased authorities, and that this is one of the most controversial eras of our history. But while the reasons for this incident remain a mystery, the actual event itself is perhaps one of the most infamous moments in all of our history. The Great Dragon Calamity. One day, a black dragon descended upon the kingdom of Shrade and burned it to ash in a single night. All the power of humanity, all the technology amassed through ingenuity and wisdom, all the riches acquired through shrewd barter, all the glory of battle and war, none of it was enough to stand against the Black Dragon. It was a being that had long since been revered as a dark deity, with artifacts said to have come from its body being worshipped as sacred treasures. But on that day, the Black Dragon was no mere spiritual symbol, nor a myth. It was real, and it was terrible. This king of all monsters wielded the Kalpa Fire, a flame so destructive that it bears the name of the world-ending Hellblaze itself. Steel and bone alike were melted in its presence. But the Shrade Kingdom did not go silently. Their final stand at Castle Shrade is a conflict that has echoed through the annals of our history, a clash so violent and desperate that it was given its own name. Fatalis, an ancient word that means the battle of destiny. But it was a battle that humanity lost, and the Shrade Kingdom was reduced to ruins, its once great castle an empty and hollow gravestone to our species' greatest era. And in a cruel twist of fate, the word Fatalis would, over the many years since this battle, take on a different meaning, referring to the Black Dragon as an entity instead of the final battle against it. The foul beast had thus completed its conquest of humanity, as it even stole Shrade's final glory for itself. The very language used to describe our ancestors' bravery twisted into the name of the villain itself. Fatalis, the Black Dragon, had triumphed. In the coming centuries, many nursery rhymes and poems would tell of its ferocity, and how the slaying of wyverns and dragons would summon it once again. And so, the great kingdom of Shrade was undone. And it was not the only great civilization that would meet its end in this era. Around the same time, the East was embroiled in its own war. Whether this conflict had any relation to the fall of Shrade has been lost to history. But what was recorded was the conflict's dire consequences for Wyveria, the great eastern city. Consumed by the war, Wyveria amped up the creation of its guardian monsters and eventually resorted to their final gambit. Xoxia, a fully artificial guardian monster created through forbidden means and combining the traits of many powerful dragons. What manner of enemy compelled Wyveria to take this measure is unknown, but the great city would soon suffer the consequences of their hubris. Xochitl broke free of their control and proceeded to destroy the city and its territories, leaving only death and devastation in its wake. Only a handful of the original people of Wyveria survived, sealing themselves into the city's inner chambers and vowing to take their sins with them. Xochitl was returned to the Dragon Torch, where it was entombed. As a result of this incident, the entire Eastlands were closed off, and Westerners would soon begin calling them the Forbidden Lands as a result. Thus, the year of the Great Dragon Calamity ended with humanity's greatest kingdoms in ashes, their golden age brought to a violent end. And yet, history did not stop. Our desire for survival, our hope for the future, our trust in each other, these qualities have allowed us time and again to withstand this cruel world. And so, time moved on into the next era, the world beyond the Dragon Calamity. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed part 1 of the Monster Hunter timeline, another insane project that is no doubt going to kill me. I would like to especially thank all the patrons and channel members that support this channel. I would like to especially thank Admiral Frost, Alistair in Wonderland, Anjanath Tamer's Ambience, Artur Centeneo, Autumns, Black Ace 202, B, Bruggy, British Empire, Chocolate Coat, Claire Miboon, Darkest Matter 01, Dragonlord, Dissy, Ethan Toombs, Theopuz, Hubbo Himbro Mirror, Harpier, Hellbug Hunter, I'm Just Happy to Be Here, Inepts, Iron Camel, Jacob Coleman, Jacob the Numbnut, Joey Tribby 58, Magenta, Julia Benebig, Urif, Carl the Crab, Kelly Barnett, Kogath, Legsagius, Liefadienst, Lufish, M1 Have 12, Makamawi, Makot 02, Matt Hat 124, Meta Defiance, Mr. Pyramid, Molly Mockery, Morgul Blank, My Name Gone, Nils Schlatter, Noah Shantz, Oakwood Tree, Person 212, Precum King, Puke Supremacy, Pononym, Quali, Rambling Robin, Raspberry, Regal Eagle, Resident Necoarch, Wronger 97, Rose, Ryan Hook, Skiba, Shebo, Sir Newt, Soruka, Tacti Wolf, The Dollarfish, Thick, Thyla Zero, Unk with Good Puss, Uthduna is an Octopus, Veraxis, Vulgar Beast, Wandering Soul, Zaffi, Vino Garcia, Zion H.V. Jorgensen, Zyperius Volkvar, and Kuroneko. Take care everyone, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.